Well, hello, 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 hello. You know what time it is. It's Tuesday night, and tonight it's Ask Giselle, and I'm Giselle. Welcome to another episode. Imagine episode 7. Yes, you have been sending those questions and keeping me busy, but keep them coming. I like it. So it's episode 7, and this program is brought to you by Pearls of Great Price Empowerment Services. And we just wanted to spend some time with you and really help you in answering those difficult questions that you are afraid to ask. This month of August, we have dubbed it the month of transition. And so all our questions have dealt with some aspect of transition. So last week, Tuesday, you saw I had some really good friends. They came on and they shared with you. Tonight, tonight, tonight. Did I say tonight? Tonight, I have a very special guest with me tonight. OMG. So you know how we do it. Call your friend, call your sister, call your aunt. Man, just call everybody. Tell them Ask Giselle is on, and we are going to be on fire tonight. So without further ado, let me stop talking. You know how I get when I get excited. Let me bring my very special guest on, Miss Karel Pinder, all the way from the Bahamas. Let's give her a Trinidad and Tobago welcome. Karel.
I'm so excited. I've never been to Trinidad, and now I feel like I'm there.
That's right. Welcome to virtual Trinidad and Tobago. You know, if you were here, we would have gone to the Maracas. You would have eaten bacon shark. I would have given you doubles, the whole 9 yards. So we still have to make you feel as if you are here.
There we go. It's on the list. I got to visit now one day. I have to.
You have to. Karel. Oh my God. Let me just give you a little bit about Karel. Karel is an author. She's a motivational speaker. She's a playwright. But I love how she describes herself as the daughter of a king. You hear that? The daughter. My father is a king, so we start. Come, let me behave myself. And her mission is to inspire others to discover and flourish within their purpose. Welcome again, Karel, to the program.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I met Karel about 4 years ago. I lived in the Bahamas still, and she had a program in Grand Bahama where I lived specifically. And this young lady she was just filled with purpose. She knew what God called her to, and she was so transparent with her journey. So I said to myself, when God launched me into this kind of thing, speaking to women and speaking to single women specifically, that I need to get her on to share her truth with us tonight. So you're here. Thank you for accepting the invitation. Wow. And you know, if you're on live with us tonight, say hello. Let Karel feel the warmth of Trinidad. Let us hear us. Okay. Let her just know that she is welcomed here tonight. So, Karel, we have been dealing with transition all month. That's the theme that we've been promoting. And so all the guests, they have been dealing with different aspects of transition. So last week, we had a group of young ladies speaking about finding purpose in their singleness. And so tonight, we're continuing that conversation. And we're going to hear Karel's journey about finding purpose in her singleness. So tonight, our question is, how do I find my purpose as a single person? Again, how do I find my purpose as a single person? So, Karel, transition. What does this word, when you hear the word transition, what does it speak to you?
When I think about transition, and it's so funny that you are asking that tonight, because in the Royal Access, that's the group that we have for my podcast, someone asked that same question today.
Wow.
They said,
Wow.
share a year that you encountered a transition where your life turned into a different direction. There was something different about your life because you went into transition. So for me, I said 2013, and that was the year that I decided to take a year off of dating. And so in 2013, I decided to take a year off of dating because I watched The New Rules of Love, Sex, and Dating by Andy Stanley. It's a sermon
Yes.
that you could check out online on YouTube. And when I watched it, one of the things that he said that stayed with me is, if you realize you've not been dating the way that God wants you to date, you should probably take some time off. You should take a year off of dating. And so
Yes.
I decided that I was going to be serious about my relationship with God. And so 2013, I was saying in the status today when I answered, it was really a year of transition because, one, I decided to take my relationship with God a lot more seriously. So learning how to be obedient. I also became celibate in that year. Like you said, you weren't dating how God wanted you to date. So clearly I was not being celibate during that time. So during that 2013, that's when I decided to be celibate. That's when I decided, I even changed my eating habits. That didn't really have anything to do with my faith, but I became a pescatarian during that time. And I wrote my first play during that time. My first full-length play was written in 2013. And so when you talk about, you know, how do you find purpose as a single, the first step is going to that place and making a change. You've heard the term before, if you want something you never had before, you have to do something you never did before.
Yes.
And taking that transitional year of, I'm going to do things differently, a lot of things in my life shifted. And in turn, that's kind of when I started to kind of figure out what God had in terms of his purpose for me, because I decided to give him the keys instead of trying to figure it out on my own. And so it was a big transition from being someone going in a relationship consistently, always having someone there, to now you're being single and you're choosing to do things God's way.
Now, Karel, I forgive me. You you took a year off dating.
A year, intentional, an intentional year.
Now my users they put me in the hot seat to ask the question. So,
yes, an entire year off of dating.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was necessary. Always ask me, like, what if you meet somebody like really great? Yeah, I did. You do.
Okay.
But and they say that in the series. They say, you know, 3 to 6 months and you'll meet the guy, or for the men, the girl of your dreams. And literally, I met somebody who was like, you know, they loved Jesus, they had a great job. It was like all the things that you would tick off of your list. On a year. And so I had to say, nope. Can't date right now. I'm giving this year to Jesus. I'm going to focus on that. But it was necessary. It was necessary. At the time, it doesn't feel like it. Seems like a big sacrifice. It's not when you look back in retrospect, like realizing God really needed you to go through that experience. But it definitely was necessary.
And I like how you're saying it was necessary. So it was necessary to help you transition into what God really had for you on the other side of that year. Is that what you're saying?
For sure.
Wow.
I'm a totally different person than I was before 2013. So before 2013, I never hosted a conference or a workshop or anything. You said you came to an event that I did. Nothing faith-based. I did events before that, but nothing faith-based before that, where I was sharing my testimony and talking about what God had done in my life. Never did that before 2013. Never written a full-length play before 2013. Never had a desire to write a book before 2013. So, and even if I did speaking engagements, they weren't faith-related or talking about how God changed my life. So almost everything that I started, I wasn't an entrepreneur. Before 2013. So it was like almost anything that's happened in my life since then is totally opposite. So it's literally like you're living for yourself. You're making your decisions of this is how I want to live. And when you make that transition, not just to follow God, because I grew up in a house where my dad's a pastor. And so from a very young age, I accepted Christ. Right. I accepted Christ. But you're still kind of living one foot in the world, one foot, you know, you just lukewarm. And so when you take that opportunity to say, I'm no longer going to be lukewarm, I'm going to be obedient to what God is calling me to do, your life looks totally different.
Wow.
And if you didn't have that necessary year, then I've been able to fully transition into who the person God was calling me to be. I would have slipped back into old habits if I didn't really have a dedicated year to kind of get intimate with him.
So the Karel I met in 2017 was the Karel after that year of being in the face of God, a totally different person. There's a term I use, and this story is reminding me of that God he has you in a holding position. And it's as if you're in that birthing position and you're getting ready to birth something. And so that year that you took to be with Jesus and you stuck to that commitment, that was the holding position. And on the other side of that, he birthed so many things. And I'm sure it's been multiplied since then.
It has. It has. But one of the things that was so interesting about God, or is so interesting about God, the thing that's so interesting about God is for a long time, and I would say, so even though it's a totally different Karel, still the Karel who I am today is still different from the Karel you met 4 years ago. Because having a relationship with God is a process.
That's right.
As you mature, it's like a baby maturing, growing into a child, getting older, and knowing more about God. So for me, even though I was obedient during that year, I've said it a lot in interviews or different podcasts that I've done this year, that before taking this time this year to really get even more intimate with God, I had a very transactional relationship with God. So I was much more obedient to his will. But as I said, after that year, you're like, oh, your life is going to multiply. So my thing was, take a year off. Now, where the husband? Jesus.
Go there.
Because
I did what I had to do. Yes, I did my part of the bargain. I did what I had to do. Now you deliver. I did it.
I did it. Okay, 2014. Where you at? I took the whole. We gotta be Jiselle. You told me you want me to be real. I was honestly. I was obedient. I kept those legs closed. I did not entertain people. I was involved in ministry. I encouraged people. Lord. Yeah. And so I had to really sit back and realize the blessings and the form of purpose and the things that God was calling me into. And even after that, it took a long time. It literally, I honestly would say, is 2020 when I realized that I needed to stop having a transactional relationship with God. Because I was obedient. Like after, the next thing he told me to do, obedient. Next thing, I was obedient. But again, we have to realize that you're doing that. You're being obedient just because you love him, just because he's worthy of it, just because I trust that you're Lord of my life, and whatever you bring into my life next is perfect. But you have to get to that point, and I had to grow to that point.
Wow. And that's what transition is about, is the many seasons. So that first year was just the beginning of taking off the layers. And then he had to take you to, and it's layers that he's bringing you in to intimacy where it's God. I'm not doing this because I'm not going to the bank, giving them my money and then getting something in return. God, I'm doing this because, and even though you don't send him, that's okay. So in 2020, it's another Karel I'm meeting.
Because you have to get to that point of what you said just now. And I know you said that, there's single ladies who are watching or who follow. You have to get to the point of, even if God doesn't send him, am I okay? Will I be okay? If I never get married, will I be okay? You have to get to that point. And the reason why you have to get to that point is, if God is all that I need and God is enough, the minute I say, if that doesn't happen, I'm going to be upset with God, that means that you don't see me as enough. That means that you think that your joy or your fulfillment or your worth is wrapped up in a marriage. And if you feel that is wrapped up in a marriage, then I cannot I can't have that level of intimacy because it's always hinging on the fact that you think you need this more than you need me.
Wow. And that's purpose. That's finding your purpose in God, Karel. I'm hearing somebody saying, but that sounds so,
so hard. It does. It does. And I think that's why you have to remove yourself out of the transactional relationship with God. And you have to really get to know him. And a part of getting to know him, like when you read God's word and you learn who he is and you learn how to trust him and you learn to pray in his presence, and you will see him bring forth the things that are purpose in your life. I had an episode the other day on my podcast where I was interviewing this lady. She was single for 10 years. Did not know her personally. I found her because her husband's vows to her was, I've never heard someone say vows like that before in my life. So I was like, I have to meet this couple. I have to hear this lady in her journey. And when I learned from her testimony that she was single for 10 years, not dating anyone for 10 years, she called off an engagement, didn't date for 10 years, and I think she got married at 36.
Yes.
And so I told her, I said, what was going on in your mind when your husband was saying those vows? Because I have never heard somebody, say, she said, yes, she was very touched and moved by his vows, but even more so, why she was so fulfilled or, content in that moment or, at peace is because of God's approval. And so that's what we have. And that stayed with me so much because in anything that we're pursuing, whether it's a job, whether it's money, whether it's a relationship, whether it's marriage or motherhood, you want to know that I'm not going to go ahead and do this thing if God's not in it. And so when she said God's approval is what she knew that, okay, I felt like I had marriage. God had marriage for me, but waiting 10 years felt a little long. But when God did bring the person, it was like confirmation of you weren't tripping during those 10 years. I had it. I just needed you during that time. You weren't. And you did have it because you sit there sometimes and be like, does he have it for me? And so it's more important to kind of let it go and say, if he has it for me, he's going to bring it. And so that's why she said in that moment of being at her wedding, it was like, all right, I had to wait 10 years. Some people don't. But I waited for God's right. Like you said, they settled. They settled. And she knew that when hearing those vows, I waited on God. I waited on his time. This person is a part of God's approval for what he has for me. And it's
all right. If you are just I told you fire tonight. If you are just joining us, this is the program Ask Jiselle. This beautiful lady on my side is Karel Pinder, all the way from the Bahamas, and she is dropping some bombs on us already. I tell you, ladies, get your pen, get your paper, because you are going to learn tonight. And we're talking about and answering and looking and dissecting that question. How can I find purpose as a single person? So I just want to tell some people I see. Good night, Tayasha Lewis. Yes. Hi, Miss Karel, watching from the Bahamas. Let me big up Tayasha. Welcome to Trinidad, Tayasha. And then there's Wendell Thurston. Yeah. And then there's Natasha. Welcome back, Natasha. Thank you for joining us. So share the live if you know someone needs to hear this tonight. And again, you could also ask questions. Don't let Karel leave without getting some questions in tonight. So, Karel, if you have been following her like I have, she has mantra is the buzzword now, but I know these are nuggets that come directly from God. So when she's using them, it's for a purpose. So if it ain't purpose, it's pointless. It's something that you say over and over and over, and people probably like, why you keep saying this thing? Oh, but if it ain't purpose, it's pointless. What do you mean when you say that?
So for me, I said it earlier, like before 2013, that transition, I was never an entrepreneur. And so I started to allow God to guide my life, not only in relationships, but when it came to my career. And so in 2015, I was working a corporate job that I loved. And we all got let go because the hotel was not opening for some reason. And so at the time, everybody was running to different jobs. And I felt God say that he wanted me to write my first book. And so during that time, it seems a little crazy to say, okay, I'm going to write a book during this time because I need to go find money. Like they just let all of us go. But there was just a piece about just focusing on what God was telling me to do in that moment. And so, yes, to the natural eye and in reality, everybody else running to find a job would have made the most sense. But actually, in that moment, to just wait on him. And so I went and I wrote the book. And because of all of the confusion that they had between the hotel and the government, they continued to pay us for 6 months.
Wow.
And so anybody who went on another job, they got their payments removed. But if you just waited on them to figure out what they were going to do every month at the end of the month without going to work, that check was there.
Watch God. Wow.
And so every month I just went to every day I just went to Starbucks and wrote. And so and I finished the book in 6 months.
Yes.
So the book was finished. So it was essentially like God was allowed me to be paid to write the book.
To write the book. And is this the book, the 1 year challenge?
The 1 year challenge.
Jump into that book.
The 1 year challenge.
What's this book about? The 1 year challenge.
The 1 year challenge. Yeah. So before I go into that, I just wanted to add that. And so we sometimes chase wealth or chase what we think is going to make the most sense. But as you can see in that example, I decided to chase purpose and do something that God wanted me to do. And he rewarded me for my obedience.
Wow.
Same paycheck. And so when you're not working in purpose, even if you happen to make a ton of money not walking in purpose, it's not going to lead to the end result that God has for you. Even if that end result is just impacting people, even if it is just drawing someone else to Christ, even if it is just, empowering someone, whatever that he had you to do, you're going to miss out on it because you were chasing funds or you were chasing something else. So, like I said, it led me to write the book. And I didn't want to write the book.
Why?
I did not. Because I took the year off in 2013 and 2015. God told me, I think even before I was on that job, God told me to write the book. And I was like, yeah, no, I don't. I never wanted to be an author. You ever hear people say like, I've always thought of being an author. I never.
That was not you. Yeah.
And so one, I never thought of myself as an author. I don't know what the process is. But number two, I wanted the book to have a happy ending. And so I wanted you to read, I was dating my own way. I'm ready to write the whole story. I was dating my own way. And then I took a year off of dating and I gave it to God. And then I met an amazing
person. And I met him.
And now when you take a year off, this can happen for you too. That's what I wanted to write. I said, I don't want to write no book that says I took a year off of dating. And I still
oh Lord, geez. Corral. Wow.
And then I still single.
You write that, girl?
Why would take the year off that? One of my friends, she was saying, so you better be glad that wasn't the ending. Because if other people read that book and take a year off and they don't end up with a husband at the end of the year, because that's not how it works, they're going to be coming back to you talking about,
I want back my money. You need to write something else. Wow.
And so God was saving me. He was protecting me in that moment. And at that time, I'm thinking like, no, this is what I want to write. But what happens when someone goes and does this year challenge that you think is some kind of genie trick? Or some kind of whatever you try to go. I was like, I don't know what you're trying to make this year off dating this, but it's not happening. That's how this book is going to be out. So how you're going to do this is you're going to say at the end of the year, you found me and you found you knew a lot more about yourself.
Wow.
You're going to end it. And some people were saying, they liked it because it wasn't, when you watch certain movies and it has that predictable ending and it's like, and then they got together, whatever. So some people were encouraged by the fact that you still could find there is positivity, there is empowerment, there is joy, and there is peace in a life that is not necessarily marriage. Like there is someone who can find the good in that season or the being positive in that season, and that's sometimes a lot of times what singles need to see because. Singles, you don't see a lot of people who are saying, I'm in this season and I'm okay. I'm in this season. I've been able to find joy in this season.
Yes.
You always hear, I'm in preparation for the next season. I can't wait till God moves me. Or you're
Yes.
a couple who got
Yes.
to that season and said, I did X, Y, and Z, and this is my reward. So it's always
Yes.
chase for that thing as if that's the ultimate thing that you should be going after.
Right. But I'm glad it ended that way and God allowed it to end that way because, sometimes when you speak to singles, you're hearing that same narrative and you're hearing the disappointment as you touched on earlier that I did what you said, God. I obeyed you, God. And so what's the reward for my obedience? And God is trying to tell us the reward for your obedience is me, more of me, more of me, more of me. And it's an answer we don't like to hear. So I'm glad the book ended that way so that we can see, somebody survived that answer and they're okay with that answer.
Yes.
Yeah. The
Yes.
reward for obedience is more of God.
More of God. That's so
More of
true.
God.
It's so
More
true.
of God.
It
Wow.
really.
Wow, wow, wow. Karel, the Apostle Paul, he spoke about singleness as a gift. Now, you just mentioned that sometimes, we fall in the trap of always looking forward to the next, and not really maximizing the season that we are in. Do you agree with the Apostle Paul that this season of singleness should be viewed and seen as a gift to us? What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, I do. But I will be honest that I didn't always view it like that. I remember in 2010, I was in a relationship at the time. And so when you're in a relationship, it's almost like, well, this don't have nothing to do with me. Because I know I soon get married. I'm in a relationship. So, but it was 2010 and I used to hang out with two other girls. I was in school and university and we used to do a Bible study. And we were reading that scripture. And that was the first time I ever heard it when they said, and some they give the gift of singleness. And two of my friends who weren't in a relationship was like, do you think we have
I don't want that gift.
We don't want that gift. They get a gift of what? I want that.
No, Lord. You said choose which gifts you want. I don't want that one.
I don't want that gift. I don't know. The girl who was leading was like, and she was already married too. She was just like, well, I think if you had it, you would know, So it almost made it seem as if like either you get the gift of singleness or you don't. And when they say get the gift of singleness, you have grace to be able to walk through singleness.
Yes.
And so I think that she meant for people who have the grace to walk through singleness for life. And the thing is, we all have, through the power of the Holy Spirit, some of us, it's much harder to walk through singleness, but I think it's necessary to understand that it's a gift. The reason why it's necessary to understand that it's a gift is because the Bible says in every state you find yourself be content. So if I have to learn how to be content in every state that I find myself, and I'm only looking at the aspects of singleness that are hard, when I get in a marriage, I'm going to see the hard parts of marriage. Because I've never trained my mind to look at things in the positive. And when I get in a marriage, I'm going to see the negativity of whatever comes in marriage, the hard parts of marriage. If I become a mother, I'm going to see the hard. You're always going to see the difficult parts of different things that are going on. I talked to people recently and someone said, how is COVID treating you? And I was like, I like COVID. I was like, there you go. I said, I don't like the fact that there are people who are getting sick and there are people who, that are dying during the season. That is very a hurtful thing that has to be going on. So I do not like that part. But the part of being home, and so I spend so much more time with my relationship with God. I get to read more, do devotion. I'm journaling. I'm praying. Then I can go and run for like 4 or 5 miles, and I can listen to God on the podcast and the other speakers that are allowing God to speak through them, faith-based things that I'm listening to when I'm running. And I get to be able to still work from home. So God has blessed our company significantly during this time because we're still able to work during this time. So I'm getting more time with God. I've lost more weight that I've lost in a long time. And so I like it. But I think what God was trying to show me in that conversation when I was talking to them is, I was explaining to them, it isn't that there aren't things that are hard about this season. I was supposed to have several travel arrangements during this year. That's not happening.
Wow, that's not happening.
There were
Yeah.
payments I made for, we were launching the book in the capital in New Providence. There were payments that I made on a build, on securing a venue that
Yes.
I'm still in negotiations. Are you going to reimburse us if we never can have the event? What are we going to do? So I could choose to worry about the fact that I've made payments. I could choose to worry about the fact that I was supposed to make several trips this year and travel. I could choose to worry about the fact that, you know, there were certain things I was supposed to do within an organization that I'm president of that we won't get to do, and I won't be president next year, so you'll never get to do it. So you could choose to focus on those things that you're not having and that you're not going to do, but how is that helping me? And so therefore, we have to see singleness as a gift, because it's about a journey. It's not the destination. If I'm thinking about the destination, oh, when I get married, when I get married, when that human that's in a marriage, because you're human, when that human does not come through, when they disappoint when they disappoint you, when they don't fulfill the expectations you thought they were going to fulfill, you're going to see the negative side of being married. And you're not going to be able to come out of it because you never realized that the presence of God is where your joy and peace comes from.
Yes.
Because when I'm in the marriage, yes, there'll be things that I get to do that I can't do now, but there are also things that I could do now that I won't be able to do then.
That's right. And I like how you said it. You never trained yourself, your mind, your life philosophy. You were not trained to respond positively. So if you start training yourself now, when you get into that next season, and as you're saying, the hard things come up, you're not going to want to run, because I'm accustomed to this. I've already trained my mind to respond accordingly, appropriately. And that's key in this season. So that's why we have to see it as a gift. We can't waste time, Karel. We can't just be in the clouds and wishing and not doing the boot camp kind of work.
Right. And I think people feel like, and I know I've been in that season where I felt that way. So I think people feel like if I pout, you know, when a child pouts to try and get the parent's mind.
Yes.
God will parents like mine, the pouting ain't work. And so the same thing with Jesus. That pouting ain't gonna work.
That's right.
The doing up yourself. I don't care. Because it is, you know, it says, you know, God gives good gifts. I give good gifts. And the person you beg for, these people you begging to be with, they're not a good gift for you. So if you got to cry, then cry. But I give good gifts. And that's not good a good gift for asking for. And singleness is a good gift, but you're missing out on maximizing that time. And what I would say is, even though I was in a transactional relationship with God for a lot of that time, I was very obedient. And in those moments of being obedient, those pockets of seasons of my life over the last 7.5, almost 8 years, there was joy in those moments. Every time I did a production and we were able to have that community with the other people who are in the theater and prepare for the production, put it on, see the people's reactions, take, you know, God finding the ways and the means and the funds for me to take them to the Capitol, taking a cast of 30 people, paying for plane tickets, paying for accommodations, paying for transportation, paying for food, letting God, that was all God getting that done, going to New Providence, seeing sold out shows. I have the opportunity to do it because I don't have time that I have to be pumping into a family or a child. All of the traveling that I've been able to do. I've been to Italy. I've been to South Africa. I've been to Greece. I've been to Germany. I've been to I can pop up and go because single. All of that is a part of the gift of singleness.
Yes.
When I'm building as an entrepreneur, and we've been building this business for several years now, and now we're at a point where we're seeing it profitable. But I spend so many hours in the business. But if I had a child and a husband right now, you can't pump all those hours. So either you have to decide to go to a 9-to-5, receive less income, or pull back on the thing that you feel purpose to do because of the fact that that's the season you're in now. I was having a meeting with a client today, and they were saying, you know, I'm trying to evaluate if it makes sense to keep the business. And so she said, so I said, okay. So she said, well, you know, my husband wants me home on the weekends, and then I have a newborn baby. And so I can't be in the business that I used to. And as we went through the conversation, I said, I think you're answering yourself your own question. Now is not the time to be able to pump in the business. You're just not in that season. It's not anything bad. It's not saying that you're not someone who's good in business.
But
it's just not that season for you. And she was like, yeah, when I was single, I was able to travel and bring the stuff back and build up the business and stay till 10 o'clock. But now I see that's not working. I say, yeah. And so she's my client. She's having a meeting with me. So then she turns the meeting on me and she said, well, I hope you're learning. Do what you got to do now while you're single. Because when you get, she said, you're going to have to give some of these stuff up. I say, I will take your advice. I will take your advice. So what I'm trying to say is, well, that's a gift. And I'm glad you started like that, because I kept telling her, I said, don't feel bad about it. But after this conversation, we both know the answer. Now is not the time for you to build this business.
That's right.
We're not in that season. I said, you have some options where you could get some passive income. Let's talk about that. But trying to build this business, like you thinking you could build it like when you were single, me and you know the answer to that. It's not happening. And so it's a gift. It's a gift that I have right now that I'm able to build that business in this way. But when I get in another season, because it was like a reality that she had to swallow. Like, yeah, this is something I can't do right now. You can't.
Yes.
And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's all about perspective. So think about a literal gift. How do you view this gift? How do you ascribe value to this gift? That's how you're going to treat this gift. If you're like, what they bought me, and you know, some of us, we never even open it, and it's there, and you're just hoping they don't see you to ask you, you like it?
My mother cannot pretend if she doesn't like something. And when I was in university, I went to this pottery place and I painted this pottery dish that I guess you could keep little things in, maybe earrings or little things. All she knew, she was like, what is this? What is this?
She didn't even say bless your heart. No.
What? This was on my list. I sent a list. And that's how we do God. I sent a list. That's why when he came with the book, book wasn't on my list.
That's right.
Husband.
That's right.
I don't know if you missed the list, Jesus. Husband was there.
Let me walk you through it again. Yep.
Children was there.
Yes.
Book? No. Play?
No. But in this gift of this season that he's given you, look at all these things that you have accomplished and will continue to accomplish until the appointed time. Know your time and know your season. You know, as my apostle, she says, you know, you all don't listen to us. We tell you, maximize this season. You're like, you could say that. You've been married 40-something years. I on one side, I have my books, and on another side, I have my clothes. You could say that, but Karel, it's the truth. We have to see the season as a gift.
It's the truth. You definitely do. I got the book. Have you ever watched the movie The Shack?
No.
Yeah, so somebody gave me that book years ago, like when it came out, like 2007, 2008. And the movie is on Netflix now. It's a really good movie. If you have Netflix, check it out when you have a chance.
Yes.
When I watched the movie, I was like, oh my God, this is so good. It kind of changed my perspective on what it meant to have intimacy with God and to know God. And it just was so crazy that I had this book sitting on my bookshelf all these years and I never opened it.
Yes.
And so that reminds me of singleness. We have been told by the culture that being single, and even church culture too, not just normal culture, church culture too. We have been told that something's wrong with you. You ain't married yet? Why are you not married? So because I keep hearing that something is wrong with me, I don't want to be identified as less than or not worthy or not good enough. And so in order to quickly please the culture and quickly please everyone that's saying that I seem deficient because I don't have a ring on my finger, I'm not entered into that season, in order to please them, I get into something where I've settled and stepped out of alignment and the will of where God is taking me. And so when you don't understand, like there is so much that you're missing out on, you realize that in singleness, that's a big part of fulfilling the purpose that God has for you. And a lot of the things, your attention isn't divided. And so what I singles miss, what God was able to show me this year is, I'm telling you, the peace, the joy, the fulfillment, it's in me. Because the minute that human being who makes mistakes and is not perfect and will not be perfect ever to you, when they get you upset, I am the one that you run to. And so your fulfillment cannot be found in them, because the minute you do that and you put that pressure on a human being, you are going to be upset. You're going to be overwhelmed, and you're going to think you made a mistake.
Carol, oh Lord, time is almost up, but I have a few more things I want to pull out of you. I'm pulling tonight. Oh, you know, I grew up in a time where Dr. Miles Monroe, when you think about single and purpose and everything, that's the man. We ate everything from him. And he has a quote, and I want to read it first tonight. He states that one of the key purposes of being single or singleness is to find yourself, love yourself, value yourself, accept yourself, and only then you can share yourself with someone. What do you think about this philosophy?
It's definitely true. It's definitely, and like you said, Miles Monroe has so much great information. I remember when I first went on this journey in 2013, I watched an interview that he was giving where he said something similar to that. In terms of, he said, we love to ask the question, what a name, do you love me? When you're in a relationship, do you love me? You sure you love me? He said to ask the person, do you love you? Do you love you? And so if you ask the person, do you love you? Because I am only going to be treated as well as you love you.
Oh, Lord.
He said,
Say that again.
I'm only going to be treated as well as you love you. So if you don't even love you, care about you, took the time to get to know you, you're not going to do it for me. If you do not love you, know you, took the time to get to know you, make sure that you're doing the best thing for you you're not going to do it for me. You're not going to encourage if you don't encourage yourself. You're not going to if you don't get to know yourself. So you have to know. So the question shouldn't be when we're in a relationship and looking in each other's eyes. Love me.
Yes. No.
And if you cannot answer the question, then maybe you didn't do enough self-awareness or self-reflection to even be in a relationship to share yourself with someone else. We cannot share and become one if you do not even know yourself. You don't know who you're becoming. If you don't know yourself, then I can't know you. So who I'm becoming one with. How can we move together as one if you didn't take the time to really understand yourself? And so that's definitely important. And another thing that he had said about a man that you should find, there's several things a man should be able to do before he gets married. We love to jump to, it's not good for a man to be alone. But he went steps and he says, he should be in God's presence. And he said, so many single women, you want to be married so bad, you try and get somebody who's not in God's presence and pull them into God's presence. When they should be in God's presence first.
Yes.
When they're in God's presence first, then God is going to teach them to know who God is and who they are.
Yes.
And you cannot enter. And I think, like I said, it's the society, it's the culture, it's making people believe that marriage is something that it's not. Marriage is a covenant. It's a covenant between you and that person. And the way that you learn how to be in that covenant is understanding what it means to be in a covenant with God.
That's right.
And one of the things that I wanted to share on this live, when it comes to single women and waiting, one of the things that God revealed to me is we like to put ourselves in environments to prepare to be a wife. Because I can be a wife. So let me prepare myself. Let me go to the seminars about becoming a wife. Let me follow all the people who are wives. Let me consume all of the content. Let me get my dress ready. Let me focus on the wedding. Let me focus the bridesmaids and all of that stuff. That may not happen, or it may not happen in your timeline. And hope the word makes the heart sick. Hope the word makes the heart sick. And so if I am going to submit my desires to God and say, whatever God has for my life, I'm going to submit my desires to God. Your attention should not be preparing to be a wife, preparing for this wedding, preparing for all of these things that you're hoping. You should simply be focusing on, how do I become more like Christ? Because the Bible says the church is the bride of Christ. So if I learn how to be a bride to Christ, I know how to be a bride in marriage. Because I already practice what covenant is. So I will be able to identify somebody who has God in them because I've spent so much time with God. So instead of spending all of that time trying to follow the trends or follow society or follow things that are supposed to tell me how to be a wife in the physical, let me learn how to spiritually be a wife to Christ. Be the bride to Christ. Learn how to trust him. Learn how to to him. Having a relationship with Christ is the foundation for any relationship you have. And so I do not need to spend so much time learning how to become a wife in the terms of what everybody else is saying. I need to learn how to be in covenant with Christ. And when I focus on being in covenant with Christ, he gives good gifts. He will bring it to us. I don't have to keep reminding God that I want to be married. He knows my heart. I'm sure I prayed it several times if at one point it was a desire. He knows. Didn't go deaf. You forget because I had said I
no.
I don't know if you forget. But honestly, he doesn't forget. And so I was listening to a podcast by Jackie Hill Perry and her husband, and they were saying the church teaches too much on the marriage culture, but not teaching people how to be holy, not teaching people the process of being a disciple. And so there needs to be more focus on learning how to be a disciple, and that will prepare you. That's what will prepare you in order to be a wife. Be the wife.
Yes. Oh, wow. You know, I didn't want to ask this question, but I know you could handle it, and you're already touching on it. So I'm going to ask, what more can the church do as you've given a different spin to the word preparation, focusing on covenant, focusing on servanthood? Those are the things that we need to focus on when we say we are preparing. Focus on what does it mean to be a bride to Christ? Well, then that's the same concept you're going to translate into the physical marriage. What else can the church do to prepare our single ladies?
They can also not make singles feel like you're separate in terms of, oh, let's do something for the singles and you got 90 women and 10 guys. And I feel a constant reminder of the fact that you know that you're single. Another thing that they can do is be transparent, because if you are transparent about the realities of marriage, then singles will stop idolizing something that they do not understand. Because as singles,
singles will stop idolizing something they do not understand. Bring that out a little more, please. Don't rush ahead. Don't rush ahead. Ooh, I felt that one.
Like you said, singles will stop idolizing something they don't understand. As a single, we tend to say that comment to married people. You don't know what I going through because you have someone sleeping in your bed next to you.
Yes.
A married woman could say, you don't know what I going through because you ain't never been married.
Yep.
You don't know what I going through.
Yep.
You do not know what it means. You see the little Instagram pictures or the Facebook pictures or the social media pictures of the people who want to show you the glam and glitz of being married.
That's right.
But you do not know the realities of submitting to an imperfect human being, to becoming one with somebody who has a totally different background and culture than you do.
Yes.
You do not know what it means to have to stay on your knees every night praying to God for him to work through this marriage and get us to a point where we need to be. And so people are real about the realities of marriage, the good times and the hard times, then it will remove the delusion that a lot of single women have.
The veil. Yeah. Take it out. Rip it.
Take the veil off. So I think a lot of times people are not upfront and honest. So the church, they can start taking discipleship, like we said. They can start teaching you how to be the bride of Christ, what covenant means. There's a book that people have been recommending. I haven't read it yet, but people always recommend it because of the subtitle. It's called The Sacred Marriage. And the subtitle is, what if marriage wasn't designed to make you happy, but marriage was designed to make you holy?
Yes.
What if marriage was designed to make you holy? Yes. So it's a sanctification process. It's just making you more like Christ. It's not so you can be happy. It's so you can be more like Christ. That person is testing you, you're growing with someone, you're learning somebody else, so that the character can be revealed. And
Wow.
I think one of the things that people need to understand, they need to have these kind of conversations in the church too.
Mm-hmm.
They need to have these real, honest, open and conversations, because they're, like I said earlier, I'm not Corel who you met 4 years ago. And so
Yes.
that time with God and actually allowing him to renew my mind was helpful. But a lot of people need that kind of information and knowledge to move from the transactional relationship to a relationship
Yes.
where I say, I'm trusting God no matter what. He knows best. He's the Lord of my life. Yes, it's painful at times. Yes, I still want to be married. Yes, I hope it happens sooner than later. Yes, I do sometimes worry or get anxiety about, will I have children? Will I be able to do this? Will I be able to do that? But I have to give it back to God, because he's the creator and he
Yes.
sees more than what I see. And so it goes back to one of the things God told me is, you want to love a husband, but you don't love me. You're not patient with me when you feel like I'm taking too long to answer you. You're not kind to me when I tell you to be there for others, when you say I'm overwhelmed with being there for others because you still didn't do anything. You're very transactional. You don't love me. You don't trust me, but you're going to trust another human being? You don't trust me. You don't trust to wait on my timing. You don't trust me to provide for your needs. You don't trust me to give you grace to deal with the hard times of the season, but you think you can trust an imperfect human being? You can't. Yeah. And so what single women have to realize, what we all have to realize and have to be reminded of, is that you have to love God on that level. It all has to come from him, and you have to trust that he knows best. That he knows best, and he's going to bring it in his perfect timing.
Corel, my God, my God, my God. We're nearing the airport, about to land this plane. Another one of your mantras in recent times. Marriage is no longer the ultimate goal. Why have you started to speak that
Yeah.
into our lives, and why? Where did that come from?
Right. And with marriage is not being the ultimate goal, it's not saying that I don't want to be married. And we say that on the episode too. I'm not giving up on, like, well, I guess I never get married. I'm 35, so maybe it's not gonna happen. So what I'm saying is, it goes back a little to what I was saying earlier in terms of the fact that if you put that on the table as, this is a non-negotiable, Jesus, you have to give me this. If I say, Jesus, this is a non-negotiable, you cannot allow me to die and never get married, then what I'm saying is that that's more important than Christ. So our ultimate goal is to serve God, to be more like Christ, and to bring others to Christ. That's what I'm on for. And so Matthew 6:33 says, seek ye first the kingdom of God. And a lot of times I would say that verse and say, yes, I'm seeking God first. I'm seeking God first. But the minute I make something that I want non-negotiable, I'm not seeking God first. If I'm seeking first the kingdom of God, that means that the only thing that I am putting my energy, my time in, is to follow God. And when he wants me to be obedient about something, he will tell me to do it. And when he's ready to bring it in my life, he will bring it. If he wants to do it now, he will do it then. I'll give an example. Like I told you, my company is doing good during COVID right now. And a year ago, my mom and I, the company wasn't doing as well. And we wrote out some things that we wanted to happen in the company. And in the meeting, we're like, okay, who we're going to pitch it to? Do you think they'll go for it? How will we get money? How we will get people to sign up? It was all of this. And we wrote all of these stuff down. But for some reason, when I came back home, because we were in North Carolina when we did that, I put the paper down and I started working on my second book and going from one thing to the next, doing different things. So during COVID, this job came on board. We started working, and it wasn't until in the middle of the program that I was doing, I was having a conversation with my mother, and I said, we're in the middle of the program we wrote out a year ago. This is all the topics. We didn't even have to beg the company for money. They gave us the money. They came looking for us to do it. We never told anybody. We never worked on it. We never did anything for it. But this is it. I'm already 6 weeks into doing it. But what that example showed me is, God knows when he gives you something that he will bring it to you. You don't have to fight for it. You don't have to beg for it. You don't have to. So when I'm seeking first the kingdom of God, if I get a vision of but she talking about this, but I always thought I would get married. Write it down and put it on the side. Whenever God is ready for that to happen for you, he will bring it back to you. And it's not always easy. So I do want to give some practical things that people could do before. So because it's not always easy, but there are some things that you can do in order to deal with that season. So the first thing is, one of the things that I do, I cut off anything that made me idolize marriage or weddings. So if I followed social media pages that talked about weddings and stuff like that, if I watch certain shows, I can't watch them. I cut off everything. If I am around people who idolize it too much, the conversation, it has to switch. We can't talk about those stuff because it's going to drag me into that culture of obsessing or idolizing of it. You understand? So there are so things like that, getting in the presence of God, spending more time reading God's word. Learning to be obedient with the next thing that God told you to do. When he told me to write the book, that took up a lot of my time. When he told me to write a play, that took up a lot of my time. When he told me to go mission work, that took a lot of time. It took a lot of time to raise the money to go do mission work and then go and do the mission work. So there are things God is asking us to do. But if we're just sitting there sulking, saying, nope, I saw marriage in my future and it's not there, then you're wasting time. You need to practically put in steps to guard your heart from feeling overwhelmed or feeling disappointed because I don't have the things that I thought that God would have brought me in this timeline.
Wow. So, Karel, if someone is in the single season and they are still saying that I'm so unfulfilled, is it that they are not doing, as you just said, God has asked you to do things? Have you done them? Is it that they are not doing what God has asked them to do? Can we safely say that? Is that a major part of being unfulfilled?
I can't assume because I'm not in their life. And so one of the things that I think also gets singles depressed is people say right away when you're single, it's because you're doing something wrong. It's your fault. You've done something wrong. And so what I would encourage singles to do, and because I don't like that when someone attacks me and says, it's you, you've done something wrong. But sometimes there are things God is asking you to do. Sometimes there's character traits that God is working out. So I'm not going to accuse you of it and be judgmental. I am just going to encourage you. If you are feeling unfulfilled now, spend some time at the feet of Christ and tell him, search my heart. Search my heart, O Lord, and let me know if there is anything within me that does not reflect. Search my heart. And sometimes what I found, what I said this year was so transformational for me, 2020, is because I had stopped doing all of the physical things that we check off the list. To say, deem myself worthy of God to bring someone in my life. I have been celibate for 8 years. I'm active in ministry. I go to church. I've written books. I'm always encouraging people. But those are the physical things that you can see, the overt things that you can see. But the way that the enemy gets us are the overt things that are of the heart that you cannot see.
Right.
You cannot see that you are still selfish. You cannot see that you are prideful. You cannot see that you don't trust God. You cannot see that you have a transactional relationship with God. And God is saying, if you don't deal with that character and I bring you into that marriage, that is going to have more pressure, and the joy that you can get out of that experience, not that it's not going to be hard regardless, but the joy that you could have experienced in that marriage is going to be less because you did not deal with your character before. And so I wouldn't say, okay, if someone's unfulfilled in singleness, it's because they got more work to do or something God wants to do. I would say they need to sit before Jesus and ask him to search my heart. If there aren't things that I'm doing physically, is there something in my heart that I have not surrendered? Show me what it is. And when God shows you what it is, be able to take it. I did an exercise recently where I asked some close friends to give me something that they felt was a weakness or an area of improvement and something that was a strength that I could keep doing. The reason I did that exercise is because before we walk into anything God has for us, whether it's more opportunities, whether it's a relationship, whatever it is, you're going to have humility. Especially in a marriage, you have to have humility. And so if we are going to, I heard a couple say before, you're being criticized and given feedback in a marriage from an imperfect person. It was like, you know how hard that is to do? We don't want to hear feedback from God. So to hear feedback and criticism from an imperfect person, that takes a lot of humility to grow and be okay with that person. And so therefore, I said, you know what? Let me learn what humility looks like. Let me allow God to dig out things that are still covered in me that I'm blind to seeing, so that I
Yes.
can be ready for whatever He has for me. And so
Yes.
if you're on the call, whether marriage is in your future or not, I don't know. God knows, but God has good blessings for you. And the
Yes.
more we're obedient and stay close to Him, whatever the good blessings He has for you, they will come to pass. I don't know what they are specifically for everybody's life, but whatever
Yes.
they are for your life, when you trust Him and you submit to Him, He will bring them.
Folks, I'm speechless. Ooh, Karel. This is just what we needed.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing God to just use you as a mouthpiece tonight. I'm speaking on their behalf because I have been totally, immensely blessed. God is so good. Karel, we're landing the plane. We're seeing the air traffic controller and we're going to land. I want you to there's this song that we love to sing. We grew up in church and we know how to do church. I don't mind waiting. I don't mind waiting on the Lord. And some things could just become, because we know how to do it, we will do it. But I want to turn that around and I want you to speak to those ladies listening and encourage them. When next they say that or sing that song, I want it to really be true. I don't want them to be lying and saying, I don't mind waiting.
I know that.
I want them when they sing that song, that all that you have said and encouraged them to do tonight, that they have started to appropriate it. So the next time they sing it, it would be from a new position. Lord, it's for real this time. I don't mind waiting. I'm doing like Karel said.
I
Don't mind waiting. Talk to them, Karel, and land this plane tonight.
One of the things that encouraged me, there's a sermon by T.D. Jakes, if you
Yes.
YouTube it, it's called Saving the Scraps. And
Yes.
so he took a new perspective on the feeding of the 5,000. Because he said the 12 disciples were able to carry those baskets into the boat. And when they carried the baskets in the boat, there was a storm on the boat. And when Jesus came, they were frightened. And Jesus was upset that they were frightened. And so he said the reason he believed that those baskets were left were not necessarily for them to eat, but for them to be reminded of the miracle that just happened. And so he said Jesus would have been upset because look back in the boat.
Oh, okay.
Look back in the boat as evidence that I have come through.
That's where you're going. Yes.
And so when I get discouraged, there are things that God has brought forth in my life that only could have been God. And so when I'm waiting on something, and I'm God is not. It's been 8 years. It's been 9 years.
Look back.
Look back.
Look back.
There was something He did for you. There was something He came through for you.
Yes.
And you remember, there was a point where I ain't had a dime. And now I'm doing pretty okay. There was a time when this wasn't happening in my life. And now totally different. There is something that happened in your life and it came through because of something God did. God did something for you before. And when you sit down and you remember the things that God does, if that wasn't too hard for God, Him bringing me a spouse is not too hard for Him. And I know that the time will be good. And if there is something that I am doing to hold God back from what it is, search my heart, oh God, reveal it to me, show me when I need to be obedient, and let me go on the path. But search my heart, oh God. I don't want to hold you up.
Yes.
So if I am the one holding us up, then reveal to me what it is. And until then, if I'll just continue to be obedient and I will wait. Because if I do it, it ain't gonna be worse. In the back. He's done it for you. He's did what song? He did it before, he'll do it again.
Did it before. Ooh, let's go. and now do it again. Hey, no, Karen, we have to end. We can't go. We can't go. We can't go. We could spend another hour just look back at what God has done for you. Look back. If you're still online, just type look back in those comments. Look back, look back, look back, look back, look back.
Look back.
We're not lying in this season to God. So when we sing
No.
and say, I don't mind waiting, it's because I've looked back.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. You don't mind waiting on God. Correll, I don't know what to say again. I don't know. Jillian, thank you for coming. Serenity, thank you for coming. Krishandra, Pamela, Rachel, Desiree. Oh, look back. They're coming in. Look back. Wendell, look back. Sherlan, look back. Tiasha, look back. Hey! Oh my God. Look back. In this season of transition, let us remember, recall, think on these things, think on all those things that He has done for you. So while you're waiting, you really don't mind.
I don't mind waiting. I don't. You told me to say at the end how they could get in contact with me. Okay. So on Instagram, and Tiaja, if you don't mind doing me a favor, I know you're not at work right now, but if you don't mind me doing a favor, you can write Corel1908 in the chat. Corel1908 is my Instagram. Corel Binder. You could join the group. We have the Royal Access. It's open for all women. The Royal Access on Facebook. So type in the Royal Access. You could join the group. And we have a podcast. It's on Apple, Google, Anchor Media. And the podcast is called the Royal Access as well. So if you listen to podcasts on any of those platforms, it's called the Royal Access. And thank you so much, Jiselle.
No problem. Tell them about the book, the second book.
So yeah, both of my books are on Amazon. The 1 year challenge. The 1 year challenge is on Amazon, and May I Call You Queen? May I Call You Queen is on Amazon as well. So May I Call You Queen on Amazon, and the 1 year challenge are both on Amazon. You can check them out there.
Right, so you've heard that Tiasha is writing all the information in here. She's doing it. Thank you, Tiasha. And you'll see how to get in touch with Corel, how to purchase her books, how to join the group to just get more of this. If you want more of this, this is a solid sister. Go ahead and get more from her. Corel, I could just exhale now. Thank you. Thank you. So you see, I'm a mess now. What else can I say? But this has been another episode of Ask Jiselle. You never know what will happen on these episodes, but what we know is that God will speak. So until next Tuesday, take care of yourself, stay blessed, and remember, look back. Has done. Bye, everyone. Take care.